Seems like this was the week of the intercept try. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Bulls 28, Connacht 14. Fairly easy bonus point win for the Bulls in this one. They got out to a fairly early lead and stretched out, and Connacht only scoring the 2 tries towards the end when the Bulls were down to 13. Bulls looking like they're going to take some stopping this year. Connacht still looking for some form and some points as well. Ulster 13, Leinster 20. It was lashing down up in Belfast for this one at the Kingspan Stadium. Leinster seemed to handle the conditions a lot better. They stretched out to a decent lead. Ulster came back at them in the second half, almost tied it up, but Sexton probably should have carried the ball in the other hand, and maybe it would have been dislodged by a very decent covering tackle from Leinster. There's a full report on this one on the channel if you want to check it out. Cardiff 18, Lions 31. I expected a bit more from Cardiff in this one. Kind of disappointing. I thought, another home game, they'd kind of show that they really meant business this year, but instead it's the Lions who are doing that. Really a surprise package this year, and it's going to be interesting to see whether they can make the playoffs by the end of the season. Stormers 34, Edinburgh 18. Edinburgh did pretty well on the tour of South Africa. They really made things difficult for the Stormers early on, but their ambition kind of counted against them a little bit. Stormers picking off a few of their moves to get breakaway tries, and in the end, just a little bit too good for them at home at least. Ospreys 32, Glasgow 17. Ospreys with a couple of wings in decent form. North got over for a try, and Giles has some set of wheels on him. Glasgow, they're going to have to really improve on this if they're going to be competitive this season. Munster 21, Zebre 5. Munster got out to 21 points in about half an hour, and then I don't know what happened. They just kind of stopped playing after that, and Zebre were able to nick a try in the second half, and actually their try was probably, it was the best of the 4 tries scored. Munster still looking, a bit kind of hesitant, not sure of their running lines and stuff like that when they're in possession. Still looks a bit scrappy. Zebre, you can see that they're going to fight for everything this year, and that's kind of good to see. No heads going down, and no kind of, cricket scores getting run up against them as well. Interesting for Munster as well. Young, I believe it's Rory Quinn, come on for a bit of his debut, youngest player to play for Munster in the professional era. And this guy looks some player. He was bouncing people off, left, right and centre. One to watch for the future. Benetton 34, Scarlets 23. Benetton still looking to business at home, showing that they're going to be very competitive this year. Scarlets probably lucky that Connacht have had such a terrible start to the season, meaning that they're not the ones propping up the table. Plenty more for them to improve on. Also going to be interesting to see whether Benetton can actually produce away from home this year. Dragons 19, Sharks 20. Dragons were actually winning this one at half time. Thought that they might actually cling on there at the end, but the Sharks came back at them. Sharks looking really good at the moment. Di Flanagan also has the Dragons being certainly more competitive than we've seen them in recent seasons. It's going to be interesting to see how these two go for the rest of the season. Let's take a quick look at the table. So we've got Leinster on top, 3 wins from 3, 14 points. Bulls on the same amount of points in second place. Ulster then third, and the Stormers move up to 4th. So we've got last season's 4 semi-finalists in the top 4 spots at the moment. Sharks then close behind in 5th, with Benetton good showing at the weekend. And if they can discover some away form this season as well, they might actually be able to maintain that position. Lions, to me, one of the surprise packages of the seasons, in 7th at the minute. Let's see if they can continue that on. Ospreys, who've had a real mixed bag, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss so far this season, in 8th. Then Edinburgh, who'll be looking to break into that top 8 at some point. In 9th place, they did do fairly well in South Africa, but kind of the win down there eluded them a little bit. Munster then have moved up to 10th place, and they're definitely going to be looking to challenge for those playoffs, but they've got to do more than they've been doing so far. Warriors down to 11th, another team who really needs to find a bit of form to climb the table a little bit. Dragons up in 12th. They'll be fairly happy with how things are going, even though they lost at the weekend. It was still a pretty spirited showing from them. Cardiff down in 13th place. Certainly won't be happy with their start to the season. Zebri Parma, though, 4 points, no wins as yet, but you feel that is coming at some stage. Scarlets then, very poor start to the season, down in 15th place. And Connacht, who've had an atrocious start to the season, propping up the table. 0 points for them. And they really need to not only sort out the defence, but they've got a lot more problems than that, I think, at the moment. Let's now look at the fixtures for this weekend. So Friday games, you've got Edinburgh versus the Lions, 9th versus 7th. Two teams who've had pretty decent starts to the season, but a win here for either of them would catapult them up among the real big guns towards the top end of the table. Then we have Connacht versus Munster. Connacht have had an absolutely atrocious start to the season. Munster not much better, despite their win last weekend. Here, the winner, you have to hope, is going to find some confidence from it and start turning the season around. Into the Saturday games now, we've got Zebri versus the Stormers. Zebri have looked really good at home, very competitive in the first two games there. Last week against Munster, not so much, although they looked decent in patches, but Munster were poor. Stormers, they played 2 and they've won 2, and they've looked pretty decent in both of those as well. But Zebri have a win coming, and why not pull it out against the defending champions? That'd be one to see. Next up is Leinster versus the Sharks, 1st versus 5th. So two teams in pretty good form. Neither of them have lost yet this season. Leinster, you have to fancy them at home, but the South African teams have been travelling well. So this is definitely one that I want to watch live. Then we have Scarlets versus Cardiff, 15th versus 13th. Kind of contrast there to the last game. Two teams have had pretty poor starts to the season, but a win here, and one of them are looking up already. Then we got Ulster versus Ospreys, 3rd versus 8th. So Ulster will be looking to put the loss against Leinster behind them. Ospreys will be looking to build on what has been a fairly decent start to the season. They're the top ranked of the Welsh teams, and a win here really would set them apart from the rest. Then we got Glasgow versus the Bulls, 11th versus 2nd. Glasgow at home will fancy their chances, but Bulls, again, like kind of all the South African teams, been in good form. They don't seem to mind travelling this year either, and they're going to really put it up to Glasgow. Glasgow are going to have to bring their A game if they're going to win this one. Finally, then on Sunday, we have Benetton versus the Dragons, 6th versus 12th. Two teams who have had decent starts to the season, both performing probably higher than most people would expect them to do. Benetton, they've shown before in the Rainbow Cup that they do have the potential to really mix it with the big boys, but whether they can do that over the long term or not is questionable. If they are going to do that, though, this is the kind of game that they've got to win at home. Dragons have certainly improved since Di Flanagan has taken the reins there, and they'll be looking to at least get a losing bonus point out of this, if not fancying themselves to maybe get the win as well. So that's the end of another one. Let me know how you feel your team is doing so far this season. Who are the standout players? Who are the surprise players for you as well? And how do you think they're going to do this weekend?